My name is Ron Winship, and with my wife Anna, we have been honored to bring you some of the most interesting shows over the last 5 years, interviewing some of the most important people in our country and around the world too, along with our stalwart compatriot and investigative reporter Larry Gilbert. We've gone out in the field and we've interviewed people the way we would like to have people interviewed, rather than what you see on the major media around the country. We're trying something new today. Our On the Road series is the one that we refer to here, but we're going to start something new called On Target. And the reason why we're doing this is because of the fact that on major media you see stories about Aruba and lost girls. You see a lot of things that don't necessarily impact your life in a great way. As a result of that fact, we decided to take it upon ourselves to bring you some of the more important issues of the day and really get into them the way you'd like to see them on national television. Because of the fact that you can view our shows on our archive, you can go back and see this show hopefully years in the future. So at any rate, we're going to start this show called On Target and In the Crosshairs, and those will be the issues of the day. I'm now going to turn the show over to our stalwart, as I mentioned, an investigative reporter, Larry Gilbert.
Ron, I got to tell you that there's been some big stories that have been in the press of late. May not get the kind of coverage that we typically would give, such as this withdrawal from Gaza, which is part of this disengagement. And a lot of people probably don't realize the history. All they know is they can only read back for 24 to 48 hours and then their memory gets foggy. It really started back in 1967 when Egypt shut down.
Let me before I'm going to break in here now. Before we jump into that issue, which is a big one, we're going to talk about another couple of issues, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so tell me about the second and third issues we might want to discuss.
Another hot issue of late is the status of the war in Iran.
Right.
Iraq, I should say, and Cindy Sheehan and her protest.
Okay.
And what that means to keeping this story alive.
All right.
The president's reaction to it.
Right.
Another key area that's of concern, and Arnold tried to deal with it, was the state of the pensions, the defined benefit pensions that government employees are getting, which may end up bankrupting quite a few cities around the country.
Maybe our country. Okay, let's talk about this disengagement. Tell us what are the facts involved in here.
Well, this is a real risk that's been taken by Israel because there's no commitment from the other side, and it's an attempt to show good faith, I think, to the president by pulling back from Gaza. Now in Gaza, as you know, there's maybe 8,000, or there were about 8,000 settlers had moved in there,
right,
and took barren land and ended up putting up homes. And they've been there since 1960.
Oceanfront property.
Yes, it's oceanfront property.
Right.
They got farms and they have other forms of industry.
A lot of agriculture was there. They took over
yes, they
too.
do.
Okay.
Yes, they have it. They irrigated it, and they took a desert and made something of it.
Made it bloom.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
But the
so why
that's
are
just
they
the
moving
beginning,
out?
though.
Why are they moving out now?
Well, they're moving out because they feel that security is a factor. Half of the attacks against Israel in this intifada for the past 5 years have all been in the Gaza area. And I guess they felt that with a million or so Palestinians living there and only 8,500 settlers, maybe this would be one token of a withdrawal to satisfy
sort of a peace
public
offering.
Opinion.
Peace offering, public relations scam.
You know, it's interesting. They took over the West Bank.
Right.
Took over the Golan Heights, and there's people.
Wait a minute. Now let's put this in proper perspective. In the 1967 war, is when Israel just really kicked butt, didn't they? I mean, they took the Sinai, they took the Golan Heights, which was next to Lebanon and to Syria, and then which secured that water up there in that area, and then they took over the West Bank, and Gaza, didn't they? They took it all. And
what triggered is they were prodded into doing this by Nasser, the president at the time of Egypt,
right,
where he shut down their access through the Turan, the water of where they had the oil coming in from their partner Iran and other goods coming in from Asia.
Right.
They were blockaded, which was against a UN resolution.
Okay, now let's speed forward here. They took all of this land, but what people don't really realize is that on top of those 8,500 people that were in Gaza, which isn't many, really.
True, that's true.
But you've got 400,000 are there in the West Banks and scattered villages all over the place, and they're only going to take out like 4 villages out of the 118 that are there, right?
That's the plan.
Okay, so let's get this in proper perspective here. They've made a big deal out of the fact that all this, what the Israelis were going to give up in order to make peace with the Palestinians.
Right.
But in all due fairness, you know, I mean, they're still going to keep what 114 settlements in the West Bank, and they're going to keep and they're going to keep the water up there in the Golan Heights. So, what's in it for the Palestinians here? What do you think is going to play out?
Well, it's a test of them taking back this area.
Yeah.
Taking it back. You know, you question whether or not who owned it in the first place anyhow. And I won't
Forget
the biblical aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about the Indian Removal Act of 1830, where we had a president in our country taking land away from the Cherokees and the Seminoles in Florida. And we're telling people we need to give back land. Well, maybe we ought to start in our own backyard and give back to the Native American Indians.
You know, we ought to discuss that quickly about the historical ramifications of that. There's some ultra-conservative Israeli people that are, you know, in their religion, they believe that this land was given to them by God.
That's true.
Now, what's interesting to me, being a non-Jew, okay, is the fact that it was given to them by Abraham.
Yeah, God gave it to Abraham.
Okay, well, Abraham also is one of the founders of the Muslim religion too, isn't it? Is it not?
Because of his illegal son Ishmael.
Oh my God. Okay, so here's two different religions claiming that this land was given to them by God. Pretty interesting. Okay, so what's the story here? Are we going now? Former premier, or what is he? Netanyahu.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he says that it's going to just make a place for all of these Palestinian terrorists to congregate in the Gaza now that they've got an open way there without any Israel settlements there. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm more concerned with the Ayman they're saying about the fact that terrorism works, and this has proved it by their acts of terrorism.
Isn't this a self-fulfilling prophecy? Isn't he wishing that that's going to happen, or what?
Well, this is a test now of the Palestinian government.
Yeah.
To see if they can coexist now with Israel based on this token, if you would, maybe not a token in some people's mind.
Sure.
But the relinquishing of this beachfront property along the Mediterranean.
Yeah, because they're really pumping it in the major press about you know, the don't take my land, and these poor Israelis, the settlers that have been there for 40 years, whatever, since '67 anyway.
That's true.
Right, and some of them, and they took their land. And it kind of reminds you of eminent domain and what happened here in this country with our Supreme Court recently.
Private property for a public purpose.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, you know, I don't think we're going to solve that problem today, but it's an extremely good issue to get in, and we invite our viewers to get out there and really look into the details, because it's not being shown on the press and the major press about what's being left there, what is being taken away, and what is going to happen. We certainly hope that the Palestinians don't want to do any more terrorist activities. That would be a good thing, and it would be probably pretty nice if the Israelis would open up a few more of those settlements than the 4 they're taking out in the northern part of the West Bank.
Well, Ron, we're not going to have to wait too long to find out, because the Palestinians are having their election January 25th, I believe.
Right.
So let's see how much of an impact Hamas has, and whether or not their current president is going to be able to retain his seat.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction here. I'm going to say that if for any reason the Palestinians decide to go and run terrorism out of the Gaza Strip, they're going to find that they're going to be reoccupied almost instantaneously. So let's move on to the next in the crosshairs issue.
Okay, let's talk about what's going on in the war in Iraq.
Okay.
Now, they just finally completed the beginning, if you will, of their constitution.
Right.
Was the deadline. They need a couple days now to iron out some 20 sticking points, of which I think there's a couple of them that are major.
Right.
And the way I understand it is that of the provinces, it will go down to defeat if any 3 provinces vote no. And the Sunnis have kept themselves out of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So if they control 4 of the provinces within this new country. Mm-hmm. So if 3 of those 4 vote no, then this constitution isn't going anywhere.
I heard it was like 2/3 though.
There's a 2/3 requirement. The vote requirement is 2/3.
Okay. Now that's in the affirmative, not in the negative. In
right,
other words,
in the affirmative, that's correct.
Okay, so you need a 2/3 vote of all the people in order to agree to the new constitution.
That's true.
All right. Now, the thing that I think has been on everybody's mind is the fact that we've lost, what, 1,860 some people over there in 2 or 3 years now that we've been.
Ron, you look at the TV media that exists today.
Right.
If we had the same kind of coverage in the Second World War, who knows what would have happened?
Right.
We lost more men than that, I think, men and women, just on the Normandy invasion. So I don't know. Losing one sailor, soldier, Marine is one too many.
That's for sure.
Losing one is one too many. The bigger concern is there really an exit strategy for the United States? Can we walk away now, or is there going to be a civil war in that country?
Here's my problem. Here's the problem I have with it, because you've got people like Cindy Sheehan and all the groups, the MoveOn.org and Al Franken and all of the counterculture people, I call them. At any rate, they're all saying, we should be out of there. Well, where were they calling? Why aren't they calling for being out of there when they're talking about Yugoslavia? I mean, that's doesn't count. I mean, all these other locations around the country and around the world, they don't have any problems with us being there. But in this particular issue, where we went in and made a tremendous change in the whole government of the country, that's way out of sorts. Why can't we be there? In other words, if we're not going to be in Iraq, we shouldn't be anywhere, should we?
That's probably true to that point. I know we're in Afghanistan, trying to clear up and clean up the rest of Al Qaeda that has their troops hidden there. But I think this is a big test for us and for our president. I think the country is behind him, even though the opinions are such that you can debate numbers. And I don't go by the
I'm one of the 36% that agree with what he's doing over there, and I'm one of the 36% that think that if you didn't take up residence there and you didn't straighten this thing out there, it was going to get worse beyond our wildest dreams.
It's true. For those that are serving, those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice, I think it would be a big mistake to bail out now. We're putting our hopes on the fact that we're training their troops, their police, and in time they'll be able to handle their internal affairs.
Don't you find it interesting that even Hillary says she doesn't think we should leave?
Hillary is moving to the center only until after the election's coming up in a few years.
Yeah. Now, what about Cindy Sheehan? Let's get into this. Now, here's a lady that, God bless her. If it was anyone we knew, we'd be sending her a card and saying, "We're so sorry that your son passed away, or that your son was taken from you in an armed conflict." Whether it was there or in Afghanistan, or whether it was in Yugoslavia, or anywhere we've ever put troops in our history.
Ron, what's bad about this is that she's gotten so much media coverage. What about all the others who are mothers that lost their sons and daughters, who support this war and support the troops? And I'm pleased that there is a caravan that left San Francisco on Monday, heading to Crawford, to say that we don't agree with Cindy. And it's sad. You've got these two grieving mothers, one whose son was killed in his second tour. I think he was only in the theater for 5 days. Right. And by the way, he was not drafted. He enlisted. He knew what he was getting into. It's the risky run.
Well, I don't agree with that premise, because I think that anytime that you put on the uniform of the United States, anybody can take you anytime they want.
That's true.
It can be a training accident.
You can get killed in a training accident.
Yeah, you can have bad equipment. But there's a variety of things that can happen to you once you put on the uniform of the country, and I agree that it's always sad that happens. But having said that, the thing with Mrs. Sheehan that bothers me is the fact that she's got nobody. She jumps on board to beat up on the president and says, well, first of all, I want the president to tell me that he's stupid. Then I want the president to tell me that he's an idiot. Then I want the president to tell me he's a war criminal. Then I want the president to... How many sets of requirements is she going to set up that are ridiculous before people get the idea that she's the one that's ridiculous?
It is sad, and we have sympathy for her loss,
right?
As we said,
absolutely,
for all of those troops that have died in this battle. But one of the things that she has to realize is that because they're over there fighting for freedom, she has the ability to get up there in front of those cameras and say whatever she wants about the commander-in-chief of our country.
But who gave her the aegis to do that? I find it troublesome that the president has met with her twice, and she doesn't admit to it. And now the problem is that I see that she couldn't possibly expect the president to meet with her on the road into Crawford I mean, yeah, I mean, it's outrageous. So let's move on from that. Let's get on down the road. I think that let's get into the next crosshairs issue.
Well, the next crosshairs issue is one that our governor, Schwarzenegger, was hoping to put on the ballot this November, called something to deal with and try to fix our defined benefit pension disaster.
Right.
I mean, it's a big cloud, and it's not just over California, it's over the whole country.
Okay, for the average person, tell us, Larry, what does a person get if they work for the government, or as a bureaucrat, or as a firefighter, or as a CHP guy, or as a policeman?
Okay.
What's the package? What do you
let's
get?
bring it down here to Orange County, California, where we're doing this program.
All right.
County employees get 2.7% at age 55. That's
Well, what does
based
that
on
mean?
the number of
Everybody
years of
glazed-
service. Hold on a
Okay,
second.
all
So
right, okay.
you work 30 years,
Right.
you get 2.7%, and it's also based on your last years of working. So
You don't
they have
think
spike it.
yeah, so they don't,
So you
don't
file
think
your
they
overtime
work,
and all your
work a lot of
incidentals,
overtime, right?
and you pack it all into the
I
end so
see.
you can maximize it.
Okay.
The Sheriff's Department, probation, and firefighters get 3% at 50.
Right.
So here again, you could end up
Well, are we
getting
just
90%
jealous?
of your base pay.
Okay. So we're
Get the blue flu and decide that I'm sick and I'm just going to pack it in.
I understand that, but I'm saying.
And I'm not saying they don't deserve.
No, but
a pension.
but the point is that when they hit 50, I can't find anybody that can explain to me why all of a sudden they start losing benefits after 50 if they don't retire. Do you know about that? They supposedly lose benefits after they turn 50. I don't understand that. If they don't take their retirement at 50, they start losing benefits. Have you heard that?
That'll be another show, Ron. I don't know if we can get into
All right,
that
okay.
depth today.
But my point being is that if you want to keep any of these people past 50,
That's
right?
the challenge. These are
Well,
the people who've got
what
the
you
most
have to do is you
experience.
got to pay them their retirement pay, and then you hire them back as consultants. And that's what's happening in our
Exactly
government.
what's happening.
So we're winding up at 50 years old. These guys are getting double dipped. They're getting their full pay on top of this 90% of their retirement pay. So it's a sweet deal.
Well, as you look around, Orange County, it's over $1 billion that we're going to be underfunded, to use that expression.
Yeah.
San Diego is going to be $2 billion underfunded.
Yeah.
LA, I think it's $5.5 billion.
Detroit,
It's everywhere.
killer.
Every major city, the states.
Yeah, they promised these people more than we can deliver. Isn't that the case?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's the corrective action? What do we do?
Well, part of it was we had when things were going well, the market was booming. We had the .com companies all creating.
That's over.
It's gone. Those days are gone.
Great. Now what?
So you got to guarantee, and the answer is to transition. I'm not saying you can do it instantaneously.
Because right now we've got a defined benefit. Is that correct?
Right.
Defined. That means it's in stone.
You're guaranteed
that's what you
when
get.
you retire. That's
That's a
pot of
defined
gold
benefit.
you're going to have.
Okay. So the option is a 401k. What does that mean? It's floating. It's floating
True.
out there in the ether somewhere.
Or a defined contribution, which is another.
So defined
program.
contribution. That means what? That
Well,
there's
you're
a
kicking in
certain-
some of the money.
Okay. You're kicking
There's
in
some
more.
matching-
You're gonna
there's
have to kick
matching
in
money.
more to match what you would like to have happen at the end of the trail.
True.
All right. So what do you foresee? We're looking at what all of the airlines have their problems with the pensions. The government recently the Congress bailed them out for 5 years, gave them a 5-year freebie to keep going, but everybody else now is going to have to pony up the real money.
The numbers that I hear in the private sector alone,
Yeah.
underfunded pensions are $400 to $450 billion. We're not talking chump change here. We're talking a
Is
major
that
potential
enough
problem.
to bankrupt the country? No, it's got to be $3 trillion or something. But how much in?
It's still a big number.
Yeah. What about our trade deficit along with that? I mean, that's another thing. We won't go into
another
this.
show.
Yeah, that's another show too, because that's too complex too. Well, listen, Larry. So these are the three issues that nobody's paying attention to, basically, today. I mean, they're paying attention, but they're not telling us the whole story, are they?
Very true.
So you're supposed to figure these things out on your own. Okay, so let's revise. Let's go back over those. The first one we talked about was disengagement.
Right.
That it's.
We're going to wait and see.
You
to
better
see how
you
that
better
plays
you better
out.
check into the details.
let's just-
the devil's in the details on that one for both sides. The second one was the war in Iraq, and I think that we got to. I think it's a little too late to turn back and run now. And then the third one is these unfunded pensions. So, there's a lot of other issues to talk about, but I think those three people should really think about and do some interdisciplinary study about. Now, okay, a couple of last things that you want to talk about where they've got some issues that probably we would discuss real quick.
Well, one of the issues that's also in the headline quite a bit is the illegal immigration and the Minuteman Project down on the borders. And it's interesting how two Democratic governors, I might point out, from New Mexico and Arizona, are recognizing it as a problem, where our governor is sitting on the fence on this one.
Yeah.
And whether he doesn't want to offend any of the Latino community, Arnold has his own reasons, I guess. I'd like to see him get behind those other two governors to push for better border control. But there is something that's coming out of this, and that Chris Cox has now gotten the job with the SEC, which leaves an open seat in Congress in this very area.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think in the paper
let's-
today there's 20 candidates running for that seat,
Just like-
including Jim Gilchrist, who is the co-founder of the Minuteman Project.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see, beyond the illegal immigration issue, which is a biggie, what is his position on all the other things that are part of serving in that capacity?
I'm not going to worry until Mary Carey runs for that position.
Okay. I'm surprised she didn't file.
It could be. Anyway, the bottom line is that we're going to have to.
So we're going to have an election coming up
Yeah,
pretty
I
soon.
understand, but let's move on to back to this illegal immigration issue. That particular issue is why in the world do you think that both Democratic governors, Napolitano and Richardson, all of a sudden they say, "Oh, there's an emergency," like it didn't happen for the last 20 years. It was just today that they came up
Very
with
true.
the idea. When did? Well, how come they didn't mention this? Maybe when the Clintons were in office. I don't understand that. Do you?
Another valid point.
Yeah.
It's the media.
At any rate, we'll wrap this up today, but we just want you to think about this, that what we're doing here, this is a new concept for us. Hopefully you might want to tune in to see us again on this issue, on these issues. We want to talk about the big issues. So if you got big issues, be sure to write us at cuttingedgetalk@aol.com. And be sure and pull up our website. Be sure and go to our archives. Be sure to go back and review some of the great shows we've done, and realize this is not going to be the standard fare. We're going to continue to do great people and interview great people the way we have over the last 5 years. But so from the producers and our great investigative reporter, we wish you a good day and see you in the future. Thanks for joining us on The Cutting Edge.